on your radio
Okay.
station. Shout out Marriott for the
Hmm.
big time upgrade here in my LA hotel.
Oh,
LA.
not Great America. Okay, I thought maybe.
No,
Maybe.
we got a little upgrade action going, little apartment.
Look at that.
So I came down for the Luka Bowl the other night, and then stuck around for Lakers Timberwolves tonight. So I'm in downtown LA.
That's a really nice apartment he's
That
got.
is nice.
Did you, no offense, I say this with all love and respect, did you clean your camera off?
I'm so sorry that I fell short of your social media standards, Dave.
It looked like you had these great shots, and I'm your buddy. I wanted to, it looked like you the first one you put out looked like it was filmed on a baked potato.
All right,
Yeah.
since you brought that up, and I'll make it quick, this is hopefully worth the time.
Uh-huh.
You gave me a hard time about the camera being, dirty and fuzzy and foggy.
Yeah.
That, I'm just going to own it, as you joke about my glasses. That was the product of the fact that when I took the video, I did not have my glasses on, which meant that I couldn't tell that it was foggy. Fast forward to late last night when I'm texting my wife to say, good night, love you, I'm back in the hotel, babe. But because I don't have the glasses on, I look at the phone and I can barely see the text, and I text babe. Well, it autocorrects to Jane.
Whoops.
Oh, that's not her name. I know that.
That's why you're still in LA.
That's why he has an apartment.
Yes. Oh, wow. Well, hopefully you get to see the kids every once in a while.
Oh, shout out, Sam.
Yeah, so naturally she said, who is Jane? Who's Jane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Autocorrect.
How has your trip to LA been? That game obviously had some high level interest with Luka playing his old team. Nico went. I mean, all that. How was your trip there, or how has it been so far?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, that night was definitely worth coming down for. It was, the Lakers games are always a scene. I swear it doesn't matter how many times I go. I always I have sensory overload when I'm there in terms of the crowd and the vibe and kind of what they had built, all those decades ago. So then you add on to that, the big time stars, old team coming back through. The part I enjoyed and that I wrote about was like, I just decided to spend the entire night talking to anybody I could catch on the side, on background, if you will, about the trade, and basically say, all right, let's revisit all these discussions. Have you, and I'm talking Lakers, Mavs, and then people around the NBA, like, have you learned anything new that makes you say, okay, I understand, and why the Mavs did this, and almost that it justifies it. So the short answer is no. And then I kind of obviously wrote about that and the fact that I do think ultimately the deal's going to look pretty bad for Dallas.
Is there, a lot of people think this, you're embedded in the media. Is there a concerted effort, in your opinion, from the Dallas side, whomever, or whichever entities that may be, to kind of continually justify this trade through leaking certain things in the media, or is that being overblown, in your opinion?
No, I mean, you could argue that they should say absolutely nothing. And you got to be clear, like, we're not talking about people granting interviews. We're talking about just like, background conversations where things are learned. To your question, Dave, I noticed my friend and colleague, Rachel Nichols, posting on social media about how she basically, told the Mavs, say less. Like, if Luka is a monster for the next 10 years, all of these, receipts are not going to age well when it comes to the way the Mavs handled this. I actually, I didn't text Rachel. I probably will give her a hard time when I see her, saying like, hey, give us a little bit of credit. Like, it's not like this stuff is being broadcast. Like, we are good at our jobs, and we are, finding ways to get to some of the information. That being said, like, to a certain degree, yes, that is true. And I think all the way up to the top of the organization. And I think, Nico has become the face of this trade. I don't know that is entirely, it's fair because he did it. He for sure did it. but ownership, I believe, played a bigger part than people believe. And, not only green lighting, but being part of the process. And, and they've mostly been kind of left out of the spotlight here.
I know he's the biggest return coming back for Dallas was Anthony Davis. He was there, got some love from the Laker fans. What was his night like? What was the reaction for him all while he's still out nursing this injury?
Very interesting. He comes out to warm up and Luka is out there, right? And so you're kind of thinking that you got to find some space for Lakers fans to kind of shower AD with love. But instead, and I'm trying to find this on my phone, you know how on your phones you can, whether it's Shazam or whatever, you can ask it what song is playing currently. Mm-hmm. So AD comes out and you're thinking, like, maybe let's have an AD vibe because he did a lot for the organization. They won a championship. But no, it's Luka land, which means that the Slovenian loves to listen to Serbian music, all the time. So there is an artist called, I don't know if it's, Ceca, it's CECA, with a song called Trepni, just a Serbian pop song, if you will, that is just blasting throughout the arena as AD comes out. And it just created a funny backdrop where, any thoughts he might have had about getting to kind of be in that moment, he was reminded that it's all about Luka now. So, he was there. He actually gave a pretty interesting interview to the LA Times. Brad Turner talked to him after the game, and he talked about how it was very different because he's in street clothes and doesn't really get to have that moment with the fans. They did the tribute video, so it was a little bizarre for AD for sure because it's Luka's franchise right now.
Let's see here. Hold on. Let me. Just gonna fast forward here. So.
Well done.
Drop me.
Okay.
I don't like it.
That sounds like AD music, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not great.
I mean, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe that's what AD asked for.
You never know.
I mean, I feel like, okay, you're not wrong about the song, though, because that's not like something you randomly stumbled onto.
Right.
That's an oddly specific choice.
No, they did it. They did it the first time that Luka played at home, too. It's just part of the routine.
Speaking of returning stars, next week when we talk, Sam, will be on the eve of the return of De'Aaron Fox to Sacramento. And based on when they threw his picture in the Spurs, the little logo graphic, their last home game, promoting this is against Charlotte, promoting the return, was met with loud boos. There is a very good chance that a top 4 Sacramento King is going to, in his first return to Sacramento, be loudly booed by Golden One Center, which would by far be a first. But it sure sounds like there's, at least with some of the fans, there's no love lost for De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, no, I've noticed. I was there last week talking to some fans in person about their feelings. As you guys know, and Dave, you've said a lot of this on the air and on social media. I'm firmly in that camp of like, if you're a Kings fan, wouldn't you want some of this dysfunction to be sanitized, if you will, with the spotlight? And he did some of that. That message does not seem to be, kind of penetrating with a lot of the fans, where they can't get past the fact that, no, it's bad enough that you want it out. You don't need to keep kicking us while we're down, essentially. Mm-hmm. So definitely messy. I'm curious, he was obviously out there a lot, very open on social media in the week or two after the deal. Now, it almost adds to the emotion, or like, if you're a Kings fan and you see the Spurs limping into Golden One Center with no Victor Wembanyama, and, last night having gotten boat raced by Houston, that's going to, if we're being real, that's going to make you happy that he's going to miss the playoffs and the Kings, might actually make it. So we'll see what the vibe looks like. I don't think my voice matters all that much, but it would be unfortunate. I think, he was a total pro for the organization during his time there. They do have a long and well chronicled history of the type of dysfunction that leads players like him to think twice about being with them for the entirety of their career. And that's what happened. There was a lot that went into it. He certainly played a big part, but it'll be interesting to see how bad it is.
Sam, I can't help but wonder, and this is just my own speculation, while De'Aaron was here, people were asking about his hand, his finger that he hurt. He said, yeah, the only way I could really get it right is to have surgery, but they're in the middle of the season. That wasn't even really a thought. Well, San Antonio's like falling off the cliff. Yeah. I don't know if they're even discussing that, but part of me last night was watching that game the same time the Kings were on. I'm thinking, man, I wonder if De'Aaron's even going to be here. Like, are they going to make a decision on him based on the way their season's going now and just say, let's get this right, because we're really building about next year anyway. And maybe they even avoid that whole situation next week. Or I don't even know if that's a talking point for them, but just made me think about that last night.
No, I mean, I'm with you, Jay. I hadn't broken it down quite to that degree in my head, but I had wondered just about the whole shutting down part, and I'm trying to peek at their schedule here.
I mean, they're way out now. I think they're 9 below 500.
Yeah, I mean, they are.
Yeah,
they're 5.5 behind the Kings for 10th.
Yeah,
and then in terms of schedule, I mean, I do think last night could be a game where they have more discussion. So they have a few days off. They play at Memphis, Saturday at home, and OKC, Brooklyn. I mean, so they have 3 games before that Kings game, and those are some tough games. At least the first 2, Memphis and OKC. And I don't know the answer to that. It's worth, wondering about. And then just in terms of the De'Aaron experience, I did think about this yesterday. It's got to be somewhat challenging for him where you made this choice with the long-term view as a driving force, but we're all human, right? So like for him to go from, again, like a possibly playoff competitive experience right now to having to be patient and realize that with Wembanyama's blood clot, which, all the signs are he's going to be fine for next season, that you now mentally have to just kind of, be patient, get ready for next season and beyond. But it's going to be a fairly unpleasant couple of months for him and his team.
It's so funny, Sam, because, I'm actually going to be really happy when this game's over next week, because, we're going to talk about it a lot. We'll talk about it on Monday, and then hopefully we can just be done with it. There's such a huge part of me that wants to move on, but it is fascinating. It's not even so much more than the X's and O's. I've been doing this a long time. Sam, you go back to being a beat writer for the B for the Kings. Jason, you were here when I got here. You've been doing it obviously a lot of experience going on between the 3 of us. I don't know that I've ever been more at odds with I don't think it's the majority of the fan base. I truly think it's about 70-30 that's going to boo him. That feels that way. But that's a big percentage. And I don't know that I've ever been more at odds with. Usually we're all pretty much on the same page. And it just, I don't get it. I don't think I'll ever get it. And it's when you have multiple media members that are like, yeah, he's calling out the dysfunction. It's what we need to hear. You don't want this to continue. He was here for 7 years. He did the video saying, I want to win the championship here. He gave them all the warning signs of, I want to stay here, but you got to keep building. You got to show me that you're functional, that you're a stable organization, whether it's players, whether it's coaches, front offices, ownership, and didn't even expect it to happen this year. Thought it would be this summer. Gave them all the chances in the world, and just simply for the crime of not wanting to commit the rest of his prime to this city. And then on the way out makes the point that it's not like went out of his way to say it's not the fans. I love the fans, including the guy that, he freaking named his shoes after the guy's taco truck, Adam, which is phenomenal, was always rode for the city. And then he's going to get booed. And I stop and I go, dude, am I just old? Like it just seems like such a jilted X thing to do that is so beneath us as a fan base. And when it does happen for somebody who is a Mount Rushmore King member, People say, well, he didn't play with any heart the last couple. Well, first off, that's subjective. Secondly, he has a broken finger. He's played through multiple injuries. He took Luke Laux on his honeymoon so he could improve. Like, I can sit here and play the game over and over again, and I guarantee you, I haven't even looked at our chat yet. As soon as I get done and I take a look at this chat, you're going to have all these people in all caps like, he's a snake, he's a bum. It just seems like a jilted X thing, and it's just so far beneath this fan base. I'm really, really surprised at the outcome here with some people.
Yeah, I hear you. I co-sign that entire thing, if I'm being honest with you. And I'm going to add a little bit of background and context. It's funny, when Luka got traded, a lot of players and even former players talked about the way we discuss players in trades and how, let's not forget that there's no loyalty from the teams, right? So the Mavs just jettisoned Luka. And now, of course, fans are mad at the Mavs, but most of the time, fans just move on. They don't really care. They don't get mad at the franchise. You're probably wondering where I'm going, but if you go back a couple years before the Sabonis trade, and you guys know this, the one thing that always gets a little bit forgotten is that one of the main reasons that they traded Tyrese Halliburton in that deal for Sabonis was because he was the up-and-coming young player on a rookie contract who had more market value. Well, make no mistake, they tested the market for De'Aaron at that time, and there was no market because his contract was too big and his play was not good enough. And so my point is that to be a player, and if I was in his shoes, I'd be thinking, man, isn't this something? You guys, if you could have, probably would have moved off of me years ago if you got the kind of return that you got in the Sabonis deal. Now fast forward to present day, where if I'm being honest about his play, I didn't necessarily ever think he would be as good as he currently is. At that time, that's why he didn't have market value, is because he was underperforming with his deal. The guy worked hard, got better, became, I don't know what you want to call him, a top 40 player, top 30 player, an all-star once, at his best, a top 20, 25 player. And I do think it's a bad look for the fan base because you don't have off-court issues. You don't have, really professionalism was not an issue at all. He was a pro. You could quibble about media stuff here and there. That's for us. People don't care about our gripes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he did the right things. And the biggest complaint I think you can have about him as well, if you're Joe Blow Kings fan, is that he's not the absolute alpha, right? Like a 1A option. And we're kind of seeing that now. He joined with Victor, and I think he could be a number 2 or a number 3 on a championship team. All of which is to say that, all of that going out the window and then him getting destroyed by the fan base because he shared some of his honesty on social media on the way out doesn't compute for me either. But I agree that it feels like it's probably going to happen.
And Sam, him a little bit. Like, if that happens, if he plays, if there are a majority or a lot of boos, boos are something you hear. It's noticeable, even if it's 20% of the arena, 10% of the arena. How do you think that lands with Fox, who will definitely speak his mind? I know that.
Yeah, for one, I know everybody always kind of jokes, and it's true, about the way he competes and how that little trigger he has where when he gets pissed off, he's at his best, right? So if he is on the floor and he is getting booed, he might go nuclear because, that's how he's wired. Media wise, who knows? He's not the type, I don't think, to sit up there at a press conference podium and air all the grievances. If I had to guess, I think he'd probably just try to get out of town. He has been mindful, not only in his public stuff, but Dave, this, like when media members have tried to get him to talk about the Kings exit, he's very quick to say, I need to focus on my current team and the future. And he's trying not to be a distraction. So I think, it's like, would it, on a personal level, will it hurt him? I'm sure it will. But he's one of those, like, the second that I'm done with you type of personalities. if you know what I mean. Like
Mhm.
once he reads the room and sees how it is, I think he will compartmentalize and move on to his next chapter. But again,
Well, sorry, Sam, but that's the saddest thing. And I know you can verify this. You had the same conversations. His only, the ironic thing is his only motivation is he's I don't want to call it desperate, but he is, for lack of a better term, desperate to communicate to the fans here that it wasn't them, that he loves them, that he wanted to be here, that he'll always love them. And he just doesn't want, in his opinion, whether he's right or wrong, he doesn't want the story misconstrued, that he was like this massive plot and he hates Sacramento and all that. It seems that his only motivation is he doesn't want the fans here to just, he truly cares what the fans here think of him, even though he's moved on to San Antonio.
This might be a bad analogy. I'm going to try it anyway. It's like, when a friend of yours, they're and in this analogy, the Kings are the parents, right? Like you have a friend whose parents are like, you're just not a fan of them, and you don't think they're functional, and you don't think they're all that great, and you highlight these things, as an impact on your relationship, if you will. And that person is like, I don't care. It's my parents. Stop talking about my parents. Like, for some reason, the fan base is rocking with the organization here, it seems like, which, given the history, is quite a choice. So
that's well put.
Well, and maybe it's not the organization. I think, honestly, now that I try to dig deeper on it, it's deeper than that, and it's the city, right? Like, we all know, unfortunately, as someone, and I'm probably going to get blown up in the chat room for this, but like, the guy who grew up in the Bay, has been here since '96, cares deeply about the community. Unfortunately, in this particular situation, I think a lot of the fans are falling right into the stereotype of Sacramento, which is the little brother complex, where you're a little too quick to defend your turf when you don't really need to. He's not indicting the city. He's not he's talking about his individual experience and why, it led to this exit. And, from a business basketball standpoint, I know what happened here. I know what went on. And the Kings had innumerable chances to, push this in a more positive direction. And they made mistakes all along the way. And, that part getting overlooked is puzzling to me.
I think that's well said. And Jason's been here forever. Sam, you've been here forever. You both raised your families here, got married here. I mean, you're a Sacramento gets. I'm the one who's the native, for whatever that's worth. And I think you are 10 trillion% spot on with that last part, Sam. We are the little brother. We have the little brother complex. We are a little bit xenophobic, and I'm guilty of that all the time. National media, hell, my argument with Jay Billis about the dysfunctional locker room. Like, I've been on that side before. I understand that. I understand that from a Kings fan standpoint. It's like the whole family thing. You were looking for analogies. I can beat the hell out of my brother all day long, but if the kid down the street comes in here and starts to do that, that's not cool, and I'm going to beat the hell out of him. I get it. We're out of time. It's an interesting conversation. We'll get into it more next week. I also think age demographics, as they were just saying in the chat, have a little bit of something to do with this, but we'll recount all this.
Give me that real quick. What do you mean age demographics?
I'm saying I think the younger it skews, the more upset I've found, the more upset people are with De'Aaron Fox. The younger the demo skews, the more it seems not an exact, I'm not sweeping a broad brush here. I just think it skews younger. We'll get into more of that next week. Hang out in your apartments. Have a great time down there. Give our love to the kids and Jane, and we'll talk to you soon.
Well played. Thanks, guys.
You. Thanks, Sam. That's Sam Amick of The Athletic. We'll take a break. When we come back, let's get some post-game reaction. Jonas Valanciunas with the G-Man. If we have time, Keon Ellis as well, and so much more right here on Sactown Sports.